Hello, my name is Danni Wells and I am an independent consultant with Arbonne International and Regional Vice President. And I'm going to do a training on the self-image, mainly because it has been life-changing, I suppose, for me. Made a massive difference to where my life was a couple of years ago to where it is now. When I first started my business, people used to say to me, oh, you need to do personal growth, you need to focus on personal growth. And I was like, yeah, but I didn't really understand why. I didn't really take it that seriously. So 2.5 years in to growing my business, I can hand on heart say that personal growth is a massive part of anybody having a successful life. So I wanted to share with you guys a little bit about how and why it works. So I'm just going to share my screen just so that I can follow the PowerPoint that I've just put together. Okay, so I've called this self-image by myself. Okay, so you're probably thinking, well, why should I do personal growth? And that's exactly what I thought when I was first taking a look and people were saying to me, you've got to do personal growth, you've got to do personal growth. So I liken it to knowing that exercise is healthy for you, knowing that eating healthily is good for the function of your body and good for you, but we still don't do it. Most of us don't do it. We know that exercising is going to get us onto the road to health and where we need to be, but we don't really do it anyway. So knowing that you should do something isn't enough for most people. So most people don't have the self-discipline or the self-motivation enough yet, okay? So this is a bit like people that smoke. They know they shouldn't be smoking. They know that. They know it's bad for them, but they still don't stop. And then the moment that they have lung cancer or something happens, that's when they're like, maybe I should make a change. It sort of scares them enough into making a change. And the same as, I suppose, people that are eating unhealthily, they know that they shouldn't be eating what they're eating, how unhealthy it is, but they do it anyway. And then they have a heart attack and they think, oh my goodness, I've got to stop. And that's because they've seen why. They've had a deep understanding of why they need to change their habits. So what I want to get across with this training is for you to understand why and what it is that personal growth does, as much as if you are eating unhealthy and you've had a heart attack and all of a sudden you've understood on a deep level why, and that makes you willing to change. So that's what I want to get out of this training that I got from different books and different audios. So we need to know why. It's really important. Okay, so first of all, we need to understand what personal growth is first, okay? So we can't progress on knowing that we need to do personal growth until we actually know what it even is. So the stick person is you, all right? So this is you. So for me, it's me, Danni Wells. For you, it's you. Inside your head is a photograph of yourself. So inside my head is a photograph of Danni Wells, okay? A photograph of who I am is in my head, okay? Understand that? A photograph of yourself. That's your self-image photograph of you. Everyone's photograph of themselves is different because we're all different people, different personalities, different character traits, different strengths, different weaknesses. Every single person on this planet has a self-image photograph of themselves in their head. Now, your photograph of you is the only one that is of a concern to you. You don't need to worry about anybody else's. You only need to focus on your own photograph of yourself. So what does your photograph of you say about who you are? Now, this comes down to your character traits, your personality. So are you helpful, courteous, professional, competitive, free-spirited, goal-orientated, introverted, disciplined, confident, good decision maker, analytical, fun, loud, quiet, shy, responsible, serious? You know, all of your character traits are what your photograph of you is. So my photograph of myself, Danni Wells, in 2014, so 2.5 years ago, was this. This is what my photograph in my head said that I was as a person. So I am shy. I am wanting people to approve of me. I don't like public speaking. I'm not successful. I'm depressed. I have anxiety. I am always in debt. I can't do many things. I have no skills. I'm not interesting and I'm not fun. That was what my self-image photograph of myself said about me in 2014. That was what the photograph of me said about me. That was who I was. So what my photograph of me says that I am in my head, that is what I am on the outside. It's like when you cook something, you get the recipe out, and the recipe will say what it is that you're going to cook and create. So what your recipe is of your self-image in your head, what your list is of who you are, that is what you are on the outside. Okay, so my outside world was a reflection of what my inside world, or otherwise my photograph of myself, says that I am. So it programs what I do, how I think, and how I show up in the world. So if my self-image photograph tells me I am a shy person, that is how I then show up in the world. I am a shy person. If my self-image photograph of me says that I am depressed, that's how I show up in the world. I am depressed. Was I happy with this? No, absolutely not. Could I do something about it? Yes, absolutely, of course. So what could I do about my self-image photograph of myself in 2014? So I needed to go to work on being more confident. So I could have gone to a confidence course. I could have gone and stood in the middle of town and started shouting about things and making myself more confident in that way. I could have played the lottery to get more money, because my self-image photograph of myself said that I was always in debt. So I could have played the lottery. I could have bumped somebody off and got a bit of inheritance. Not that I would have done, but I could have done. I could have robbed a bank, could have stolen money. I could have done different ways to get money. Because I wasn't fun, I could have done wacky things to be more fun, like done a bungee jump, or done some crazy things and be like, right, I'm fun now, great, I've got money, I'm fun, and I'll have more confidence. Now, all of those things are great, but all they do is work on the outside of you. They're not addressing the inside self-image of yourself, okay? So it's just temporary. So you can't change the reflection of yourself in the mirror without changing what's looking in the mirror first. So if you look in the mirror now, you will see you. Whether you are doing a confidence course, jumping out of a plane, doing wacky things, or you've won the lottery, all of those things only are external factors on the outside. What is looking in the mirror is still you. So if I did a bungee jump and said, oh great, I'm more fun now, when I look at myself in the mirror, if my self-image photograph of me says I'm not fun, it doesn't matter how many planes I jump out of, when I look in the mirror, I'm still looking at somebody that's not fun. So there's a book that I read by Maxwell Maltz, that he was a plastic surgeon, and people would come to him and say, I've got scars, I've got disfigurations, and my life is miserable because of these problems. Can you help me with plastic surgery? So he did, and then when the patient would wake up with the scar gone or the disfiguration gone, they were still unhappy. Why is that? He moved the scar, he got rid of the disfiguration. The reason why is because the self-image photograph of themselves was the same. When they looked in the mirror, they were the same person, scar or not, okay? So what happens on the outside will not change what's going on the inside. When you look at the reflection in the mirror, it is your self-image photograph looking back. So I want you to imagine a house thermostat. So in your house, your thermostat is set to 25 degrees, okay? So that means that no matter what, your house is 25 degrees temperature. Now let's say one of the kids has opened the door really wide and it's freezing cold, it's letting all the cold air in, and then the house drops from 25 degrees to 15 degrees, and you're like, oh God, it's cold. After a few minutes, the thermostat's gonna register that the temperature around it has dropped by 10 degrees. It's gonna be like, oh, the temperature's dropped. So what it's going to do, it's going to automatically kick in to pump out more hot air to then gradually bring the temperature back up from 15 degrees up to 25 degrees. It's going to pump in the hot air and make the temperature of the house back to 25 degrees. Whether the door's open or not, that's the thermostat's job. The thermostat doesn't know that the door's open or not. It just knows that the temperature's dropped, and it's going to do everything in its power to bring it back to 25 degrees. So it's pumping out hot air. Now then, let's say you go and close the door, and then the thermostat's still pumping out all this hot air, and the temperature rises to 35 degrees. And the thermostat's then going to go, the temperature's gone up to 35 degrees. Oh my gosh, quick, let's pull back, stop pumping in all the hot air. In fact, let's pump in some air conditioning, cool it down, let's get it back to 25. And it's going to gradually bring it back to 25. So a house thermostat, whatever it's set to, so this one's set to 25 degrees, no matter how much it goes to one side, too cold, or the other side, too hot, it is always going to go back to the center, which is 25 degrees. No matter what, it will go back to where where it's set to. Its self-image photograph is 25 degrees. So that is what it will go back to. Okay, so let's take size and weight, for example. So the middle photo is your self-image photograph. So let's say the self-image photograph is a size 14. So in this lady's head, she has a photograph of herself that says, Doreen, you are a size 14, okay? Now let's say she goes on a drastic diet and she starves herself and she's not really giving herself the right nutrition, and you know, she's gone on like Cambridge diet or some sort of crazy fad. She's naturally going to lose weight because she's practically starving her body and not looking after it correctly. She's going to drop down to a size 10 and she's going to feel dreadful. She's going to feel poorly. She's going to be uncomfortable. So do you know what's going to happen? It was a temporary weight loss. Why? Because you always go back to the self-image photograph of yourself, and her self-image photograph of herself is a size 14. So she will go back to being a size 14. Now let's say she goes on holiday for a month, all you can eat restaurant, and she eats and eats and eats, she does no exercise, and all of a sudden she's gone up to a size 20, she put tons of weight on. What's going to happen? She's going to naturally, when she gets back home, go back to a size 14, because that is where her self-image photograph of herself is, back to the center. You always go back to the center. No matter what, you go one side or the other side, you always go back to the center. That's why people that go on these diets, it doesn't last, because you always go back to your self-image. Okay, let's talk about children or students. So if a child is told that they're a grade B student, and they're like, yeah, you're a B grade student, you always get B grade, you're a typical B grade student, that's what they're going to be. So if by chance they work super hard on one project and they invest so much time and energy into a project and they get an A star, they think, oh, wow. And their parents think, wow, you're always going to be an A-star student. Well, they're not, because they're going to go back to their self-image photograph of themselves. They're going to go back to the center, which is a B grade student, okay? Now, let's say that they do no studying. They are out of their normal character, and they don't do any work on their schoolwork, and they get a D minus. And what's going to happen? They're going to go back to their self-image photograph of themselves. So if they're a B grade student, that means that they probably work about 10 hours a week extra on their studies. So if one week they do nothing and they get that D minus, that's because it's out of character for them, and they're going to go back to character. They're going to go back to their comfort zone, back to their character, work 10 hours a week extra on their schoolwork and go back into character. During the week where they worked super hard and got an A star, that was because they put more time and energy in, but that's temporary. Like, they can't keep up with that because it's not their normal self, it's not their normal character traits. So they're always going to go back to the center. Whether they go one side or the other side, they always go back to the center. And let's talk about money, because most of us have this issue. What is majority of the time what your bank balance says every single month? Okay, so my old self-image photograph of myself used to say minus £1,000 in the bank account. That was the limit of my overdraft. So that is, as much as I hate to say it, that was my comfort zone. Believe me, I wasn't comfortable with that, but that was my comfort zone. So being £1,000 minus in my overdraft is where my bank balance always tended to go towards. Okay, no matter how much money went in, it always ended up in that place, because that is my self-image photograph of myself, or it was, should I say. So when people have the same amount of money in their bank account, it always goes back to that amount. That is your self-image photograph of your money. Okay, so if your self-image photograph of your money is minus £1,000, obviously it is for you, whatever it is, mostly. Let's say that all of a sudden you buy something, like you buy a house, you put a deposit on something, you buy a holiday, and you're then minus £5,000 in debt. So you're completely the other side of what you're used to. What's going to happen is you're naturally going to cut back and go without to get back to your comfort zone, back to your self-image photograph, and get back to a minus £1,000 in your bank account, because we always go back to our self-image photograph. Now, let's say you inherit a ton of money, you win the lottery, or you somehow get given a load of money. You can't cope with it. People can't cope with having so much money if it is not what fits in line with their self-image photograph of themselves. So what's going to happen? You're going to get rid of it as quickly as possible. You're going to spend it on clothes, shoes, handbags, food, holidays, going out. You're going to get rid of it as quickly as humanly possible, because you can't cope with having that money in your bank because it doesn't fit in line with your self-image photograph of yourself. Now, name one person that you know that has been given more money than what they used to, and tell me this: did they get rid of it quickly? Yes, of course they did. Of course, because it doesn't fit in line with their self-image photograph of themselves. No matter how much we sway from one side to the other, we always go back to the center, which is our self-image photograph of ourselves. So if our self-image photograph of ourselves says that we are in debt, we're somebody that is always in debt, that is our self-image photograph of ourselves. We're never going to sway away from that for very long. It'll be temporary. So no matter what temporarily happens, you will always go back to your self-image photograph of yourself. So our self-image photograph is our blueprint. So as you can see here is a blueprint of a house. So if somebody was given that blueprint, they will be able to create that house to the T of what was expected with the blueprint instructions, okay? Now in our brain, we have a blueprint instructions of who we are as a person. So if someone was to take the blueprint from our brain, so our instructions of who we are, our self-image photograph of us, they could clone us to the T with this blueprint, with this instructions. So going back to myself in 2014, if somebody had taken my blueprint and printed it off, they could clone me, and when they cloned me, I would be exactly to the letter who my self-image photograph says that I am, which is minus £1,000 in debt, always go back to that, overweight, unhealthy, shy, have no confidence, isn't fun, isn't interested, has no skills, can't do this, struggle, lack. They would be able to create a clone of me exactly the same as who I am, just by using my blueprint or my programming, if you like, my list of instructions, my blueprint, which is all your self-image photograph. So in your brain right now is a blueprint of who you are. If somebody took that from your brain and got it on paper and wrote down your programming, what makes you, your self-image photograph, they would clone an identical person to you to the T. Okay, so what should I do about it? So there are 3 things that we need to do. Number 1, you need to understand what your self-image photograph of yourself says about you, and you need to write down what your blueprint is. So if somebody's going to take your blueprint and clone you, what does it say about you? Am I not shy? Do I not have confidence? Am I not pretty? Am I not clever? Do I always make mistakes? Do I always mess up? Do I always argue? Am I a drinker? Am I a smoker? I can't exercise. I'm unhealthy. Everything that you would say about yourself, write it down. That's your blueprint. Write down what your blueprint is. That's the first thing you need to do. Work out what your blueprint is, what your self-image photograph of yourself is. Write it down, get it down, work out. It's going to be painful. It is. But you need to work out what your self-image photograph of yourself says about you. What is that programming in your head, controlling your body to always go back to the center of, okay? What does it say about you? Okay, number 2, work out what you want your self-image photograph of you to say about you. So what program would you make your blueprint if you could go back to you being a little baby and you gave that little baby of yourself the instructions for what your life to come is going to look like? What programming would you want your self-image photograph to say about you? If you could go back to that little baby that was you and say, this is the self-image photograph I want you to have of me, not this one that I've had all of my life. I'm going to give you a new one. I want you to write down what you would want that self-image photograph to say about you. So for me, it was I have confidence. I always have £30,000 in the bank every single month, regardless. So that was a new money blueprint for me. I love public speaking, which took me a long time to actually to change that, but now it has changed. That blueprint has changed. I am a great mum, I'm a great wife, I'm a great friend, I am a successful business owner. I always bring in so many more QVs and I sponsor lots of people. I attract people, I'm a magnet, all these different things. What would you want your self-image to say about you? So if you're scared of flying, if that's your self-image photograph, then you could change it to, I love flying. You know, these are the things that you need to work out. So number one is what your self-image photograph says about you. And number two, what you want your self-image photograph to actually say about you, what you would change it to. And then number three, to learn how to move from the old self-image photograph of you to the new self-image photograph of you that you want. So the old instructions of who, so for me, Danni Wells is, to the new blueprint instructions of who Danni Wells is, or for you, obviously, just replace that with your name. So moving from the old self-image photograph of you to the new self-image photograph of you is, hang on. What is it? It's personal growth. We're moving from the old self-image photograph to the new self-image photograph of you. And that gap is personal growth. Okay, this is understanding why you need personal growth. This is going deep and understanding this. So, let me just mind my video there. So, we've got the old self-image photograph here. So this is my brain in 2014, and my old self-image photograph was sad, unhappy, depressed, has anxiety, is a minus £1,000 in debt, is size 14, overweight, unhealthy, not fun, you know, all of these miserable things. I'm shy, I don't like public speaking, I can't grow my QV, I can't promote, I'm a struggling district, no one's interested in what I have to say, I'm fed up, I'm tired all the time. That is my old self-image photograph of me. And then I've got my new self-image photograph of me, as you can see there, happy, happy, happy. So my new self-image photograph of myself is I'm courageous, I love public speaking, I'm in an abundance of money, I'm healthy and of great weight, I'm full of energy all of the time, I'm constantly happy, I can grow my QV, I can promote well, I'm on my way to MVP, and every day is a fabulous step closer. Everyone is interested in what I have to say. So to move from the first photo to the second photo, that is where personal growth comes in. Now, in the middle, you can see a picture of a blueprint. So that is what you're going to have to work on. You're going to have to tweak the programming in your blueprint, your instructions of who you are. And personal growth is going to be what gets you from your old self-image photograph of you to a new self-image photograph of you. Okay? So that the new self-image photograph can be who you want to be, what your life's going to be. So deciding to get from one place to the next place, so from where you are to where you want to be, is a bit like exercise. You don't just wake up one morning and say, I'm going to be a marathon runner and I'm going to be in the Olympics, blah, 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 and wake up and that happens. That doesn't just happen. It takes growth, okay? It takes commitment, it takes consistent activity and effort. So like exercise, to get from where you are to where you want to be, it takes time, it takes baby steps, it takes effort, it takes speaking to people that are where you want to be. So if you want to be a marathon runner, what you do is you go and speak to people that have run marathons and you say, what did you do to be able to speak, to be able to run marathons? You know, what kind of tips can you give me? What kind of advice can you give me? You read books about the topic, you listen to audios about the topic, you invest your time and energy into getting better at that particular thing. So moving from your old self-image to your new self-image is going to take time, energy, effort, consistency. It's not just going to happen overnight. Like exercise, moving from where you are to where you want to be takes time, energy, and effort. If you were to decide to speak a new language, you don't just wake up one morning and say, I'm going to be fluent in Mandarin. And it doesn't just happen. You have to invest time, energy, and effort and take baby steps and consistently do it every single day to move closer towards that goal to get to where you want to be. So when you do work on personal growth, it is going to reflect in the person that looks back at you in the mirror. So if you look in the mirror now and you feel unhappy with the reflection looking back at you, you look at your reflection and say, I'm ugly, I'm not clever, I make mistakes, I can't grow a business, I can't do that, I never have any money, I'm a disappointment, I'm depressed, I'm overweight, I'm unhealthy. If that is what's looking back at you in the mirror, that is what you need to change. And when you work on personal growth, you're going to see a big difference. You're going to see the person look back at you in the mirror and you're going to say, I am fabulous. I love being me. I'm the best weight I've ever been and it's here to stay. I grow a sensational global business. I am happy all of the time. I'm fun. I'm interesting. You know, all these different things. You're changing your self-image photograph of yourself. So when you look in the mirror, you're happy with what you see. So I'm just going to play a 1-minute video just for a second. I need to share my screen again. Share screen. Right, I'm just going to play this. Okay, so our lives are a reflection of what is going on the outside. So, so everything is an echo to what is going on. So your life is an echo to what everything your self-image blueprint says that you are. So your QV is an echo to you. Your business is an echo to who you are. Your weight is an echo to what your self-image photograph is saying about you. Your money blueprint is an echo to what your self-image photograph says about you. Okay, so you're probably thinking, right, I get it. I get it. So how do I work on changing my self-image photograph of myself and changing the programming in my blueprint? So I've just written down a few ideas here. So these are the things I would massively promote to help you change from the old photograph to the new photograph of yourself. Read books on personal growth. There are thousands of phenomenal, great books out there that people that have worked on their own personal growth have taken time to write and say what they did, what their old self-image photograph looked like, what their new one looked like, and how they got from where they are to where they want to be. Okay, so read books on personal growth. Or if you can't read the books, then there's audios out there. Another one. Stop watching TV that brainwashes you and doesn't aid you in any way. So I stopped watching the news, I stopped watching soaps, I basically stopped watching TV because it doesn't fulfill me in any way, it doesn't make me feel good about myself. It's just a bit brainwashing really, isn't it? It's just going into hypnosis and drifting along in life, and it doesn't aid me in any such way. So I stopped watching TV and I suddenly found I had like 40 hours a week spare. Okay, another one. Find a platform that pushes you and stretches you to grow into the person that you want to be. So for me, I found my online business with Arbonne International, and that gives me a platform to stretch me. So I didn't like public speaking before, but working with Arbonne, you get opportunities to do public speaking. It starts off small and it grows and grows, and that stretched me to become more. And now my self-image blueprint photo of myself says that I love public speaking. So I have moved from where I was to where I want to be. I've moved from my old photo to my new photo because of the platform that Arbonne enabled me to stretch myself. So find a platform that pushes you and stretches you to grow into the person that you want to be. So if you aren't already part of a network marketing company, that might be something worth considering, not for the financial income, but for the stretching you. So enabling your platform to stretch yourself further to grow into that new self-image photograph of yourself that you want to be. Okay, another one. Find people who are where you want to be and ask them what they did. Follow them as much as possible. So for me, I didn't know anybody that was successful. And when I started working with my business, I was surrounded by really successful people that it actually enabled me opportunities to ask them, what did you do? Tell me, what are your tips? What are your top books? What are your top audios? What did you do? What was your old self-image photograph of yourself like? And what's your new one like? What kind of things did you say to yourself? What did you do? Find something where you are able to speak to people regularly that are where you want to be, that have a better self-image photograph of themselves, of money, of weight, of healthy, you know, being healthy, of all these different things. Find somewhere where you constantly are able to speak to people that are succeeding in life because they've got a better self-image photograph of themselves now. They've worked on it. Okay, next one, affirmations. Say them out loud so that the subconscious can hear the self-image photograph of yourself, so it can hear what you're saying. So for me, I'd say, I am confident. Even when I wasn't, I still would say it. And now I say it and I feel it. Vision boards of what you want your life on the outside to look like with your new self-image. Next one, watch The Secret by Rhonda Byrne many times. It's free on YouTube. Just watch it every single day as much as possible. It's fabulous. I've watched it about 1,000 times. Watch The Secret by Rhonda Byrne over and over and over again until you know the words off by heart. Okay, next one, meditation. Now that is a skill. I'm not even going to lie to you. That is like running a marathon without warming up. It is a challenging skill, but take it baby steps. You're not just going to run a marathon without learning how to run first. So meditation is like a muscle. You need to work in baby steps first. Accept that. Accept it's going to take time, but it's a fabulous way to help move from your old self-image photograph to your new self-image photograph. And then next one, remove these words from your vocabulary. Can't, try, and struggle. Get rid of them. Never, ever, ever say those words ever again. Now, these are my top 4 book recommendations to move from the old self-image photograph to the new self-image photograph. So we've got The Power of Neuroplasticity by Shad Helmsletter. That book is incredible. Then we've got Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. He talks about blueprints, how to understand what our blueprint is and how we can change our blueprint. And that basically is the old self-image photograph of ourselves to the new self-image photograph of ourselves. The Secret by Rhonda Byrne, obviously already recommended that. And Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. Now, he is the plastic surgeon that used to work on people that had scars and all these different issues. And then he was the man that discovered that when people had plastic surgery to resolve what it was that was making them unhappy, he found that on the outside, it wasn't what was making them happy. It was the self-image photograph of themselves. So he worked out how to change the self-image photographs of yourself to get people to where they wanted to be. So that book's fabulous. All 4 of them, I could not recommend enough. And they're all, there's an audio version of them all on YouTube. Okay, so this is my old self-image of me in 2014, and the photo of me in the pink, that was one of my proudest moments. I hadn't found my Arbonne business, but what I had done was join a group. It was a mums and babies group where we got to learn skills of how to sew, and I sewed them. Look how happy I am. I'd found a platform to do something. That was my skill back then. So that was my old self-image. And here is my new self-image of myself. And do you know what? I'm not even stopping now. I'm still working on it. I still work on my new self-image all of the time, every day. I do personal growth for probably 2 to 3 hours every single day. So lastly, I want to end with this. Now, you probably listened to this and spent a bit of time listening to me, and I'm really grateful that you've invested time into listening to what I have to say. But I want you to decide right now. Okay, so you could decide right now, or you could decide tomorrow, or you could decide next week, or you could decide next month, or you could decide next year to let this time pass and not do everything I've just told you to do. You could just leave all of this information that I've given you and not address your self-image of yourself, not accept this information. But know this, because this is really important. All successful people, I'm going to say it again, all successful people, without fail, all successful people, every single one of them, have addressed their self-image of themselves and worked on it with personal growth. So if the penny drops for you in a year's time, that you do have to do personal growth to change your outer world, you will have wasted all of the time from hearing this today to the day the penny drops for you in a year's time. So you might listen to this and think, and you might question it and think, do I need to do personal growth? And you might talk yourself out of it, but just accept it is what makes people's lives change, okay? Don't search for a shiny penny and a quick answer and temporary solution. This is it. So losing weight isn't about dieting, it's about changing the self-image first. you will yo-yo with working on anything in the outside before working on the self-image. So think about that thermostat again. If that house thermostat is set to 25 degrees, no matter how much you open and close that door, you're going to be yo-yoing back and forth. It's always going to get back to the center. So know this, whether you think this is blah, 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 this is rubbish or not, just accept that every single successful person ever has worked on their self-image, from their old self-image of themselves to their new self-image of themselves, and how they've got from here to here is personal growth. Whether you believe it or not, it doesn't make any difference to me. This is about you. Whether you believe it or not, it is what it is. So if you are willing to move from where you are to where you want to be, you need to do daily personal growth. It is what it is. When I first heard about personal growth, I was like, yeah, personal growth. Everyone's talking about personal growth. And I didn't do it. And I wasted time. And what I wish I'd done is I wish somebody had grabbed me and said, whether you think it's true or not, every single person at the top that is successful at anything in life has done it with personal growth. Whether you believe it or not, I don't care. They have. And I was like, if someone said that to me, I'd have been like, oh my God, because it's true. Okay. So if you want to move from where you are to where you want to be, you need to fill it with personal growth every single day and move from the old self-image of yourself to the new self-image of yourself. And only then will you see your outside world become a reflection of what your self-image photograph of yourself says. Thank you so much for listening. I look forward to hearing about how you've worked on this yourself with personal growth and all of your success. I'll be able to see, you can see people that do personal growth and you can feel it. It's like a different energy. You can feel and see people that are working on personal growth. So I can't wait to see you working on yours. Bye-bye.